Hi, my name is Jason Brostolski, and I'm here to talk to you about the necessary removal of the designated hitter from MLB. But first, we're going to start off with the history of the designated hitter, or DH, if you will. Um, it was actually first introduced in 1906. The idea came up where owners would like to have an extra player that would bat for the pitcher. Back in the early 1900s, they were not very good. Pitchers were not very good at batting. There were times where obviously there's people like Babe Ruth and people like that were very good batters, but most of the batters were not great, and so that saw an issue with scoring runs. It was actually first introduced and actually used in practice back in January 11th, 1973. This is when the AL, or American League, owners pushed for the rule change. The National League, or NL, resisted. They resisted this change because they enjoy the way that the game has always been played. Traditionally, there's always been 9 players, both play the field, and then once those fielders are finished fielding, they come over to the other side and they start batting. The AL started falling behind on the performance, the attendance, and the quality of the NL. So they started toying around with the idea of adding the extra hitter, thinking that this would lead to more runs and more excitement. Back in 1973, they decided to have this DH hitter begin as an experiment for 3 years. This made the trial period such that if things worked out for the AL, they would then decide to keep it or they would decide to remove it. The rules then were changed 3 years later, where AL will now have 10 starters technically rather than having 9. The 10th being the designated hitter, who would go and only bat for the pitcher, and he would never actually go out into the field unless there were other changes. The facts to know about the designated hitter is that back in the 1970s, there wasn't really a thing called interleague where you would have AL versus NL. So the only time where you would ever have an issue where there were issues with varying rules between AL and NL was found in the World Series. Back in the 70s, when they decided, okay, they wanted to go this route with the DH, they decided in 1976 to keep it. 1976 till 1985, we actually see that the DH was only allowed every other year, any even year between 1976 and 1985. And then the rule was changed in 1986. The rule was changed to what it is now, where if the AL team is home, it's going to go by the AL rules, meaning that there will be a DH. If the NL team is home, then there will not be a DH. Within the DH era, we have seen that the most runs scored is actually in the first inning, not necessarily later in the game itself. So with that, we can tell that DH itself, while there might be an impact if they're batting first, second, or third, there really isn't a difference with the outcome of the DH itself. One thing to know was once the AL decided to move that route, the minor leagues, college, and high schools soon followed this rule, where you can see a lot of DHs throughout the MLB, which I believe hinders the pitchers from being able to bat as efficiently as they would be able to. In 2015, we saw that pitchers only hit 132. However, there were some great batters back then, pitchers that were also batters back then, Master Bumgarner being one of them. Now, the most important thing to know is that when we look at the 2018 regular season, we actually see that out of the top 10 teams, it's shared halfway between the NL and the AL in the batting average and the most runs scored, or most home runs. You would figure with an extra batter that the AL would actually be better with home runs and batting average. However, that is not the case. Now, with giving you the history and now giving you the odd facts surrounding what is going on with the DH, the reason to remove this is simply, let's go back to the way that America's pastime began. There's no reason to have the DH. It's giving an extra person a place to bat, but let's be real. They don't need to do that. The pitchers are going around fine. The hitters are going around fine. If a pitcher does not do well, then you know what? That's on him. The forces that actually come into this, it forces teams to actually start only 9 players, the way it's supposed to be, not 10 or 9 with an asterisk of, oh, there's another batter that gets the bat for this guy. That's an easy route. That should not be the case. There's no real difference in stats between the DH and those who don't use the DH. You would think, like I said before, that the AL has an advantage. However, as I've shown you, there really isn't a difference. Being that most runs are scored in the first inning, the DH really doesn't even come into play. Now, granted, the DH could bat first or second or third. However, when you look at it, the pitcher wouldn't have come up at that time anyway. So the first, second, or third batter, if they were that good, they would also play the field and, in fact, actually go ahead and bat. Also, there are great moments in baseball where we have Dontrelle Willis coming in to pinch hit. We have Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux with a commercial, Chicks Dig the Long Ball. We have Carlos Zambrano, who is leading the clubhouse with home runs. Madison Bumgarner coming in the playoffs and hitting home runs. And, of course, Big Sexy Bartolo Colon last year hitting its first home run. Amazing moment in history. Thank you very much.